Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're looking at something called playing habits.
Hmm.
It's a framework for understanding how we contribute to our own reality.
Hmm.
It comes from Alison McLean's work, and it touches on consciousness energy, maybe like David R. Hawkins stuff.
Exactly, yeah. It pulls from that kind of thinking.
Mhm.
And this deep dive, it's really about getting under the hood, looking at our dominant habits.
The conscious ones and the subconscious ones.
Both. The ones we know about and the ones kind of running in the background. We'll explore how these habits shape our experience in what McLean calls the game of life. We've got some really interesting material to get into.
We definitely do. We're digging into this habit formula idea, how awareness ties in, like noticing our habit reactions, and this whole concept of frequency.
Right. Frequency related to emotions, even down to like cell health.
Yeah. So the mission today, basically to see how becoming aware of these habits can actually empower you, the listener, to make more conscious choices and, influence your personal reality.
That's the goal.
So,
So let's jump in.
all right. So this habit formula, becoming aware seems to be step one, right? The key idea being if we can consciously see our habits, our subconscious programming, that's where change actually starts.
Exactly. And what's really interesting is how McLean links habits, triggers, and the patterns they create. It's like by watching these loops, you start to see your attachments.
Attachments to what? Like outcomes or?
Outcomes, yeah, or specific ways of being, maybe even certain feelings you keep returning to.
Huh. It's like we have this default character, our habitual being that just kind of takes over.
That's a good way to put it. And McLean suggests that just recognizing that, seeing those different roles we play habitually, can actually simplify things, lead to a more natural life flow.
So it's about seeing the patterns under the roles.
Yeah. And this whole habit formula thing, it's tied pretty deeply to our fixed beliefs, our programming, stuff we might not even be aware of.
But it's not set in stone, right? That's key.
Absolutely not. It's always, always open to being looked at, updated, renewed.
Which leads to habit awareness. McLean talks about this as being like radically honest in the moment, vulnerable even.
Right. And then, from that place, consciously choosing to play a different part, respond differently, stepping off the autopilot.
Okay, but how does just being aware change things? This is where frequency comes in, isn't it?
This is where it gets really interesting, yeah. McLean brings in this idea of consciousness as frequency.
Uh.
It echoes some of Hawkins's work, but she also weaves in ideas about cell health frequency.
Right. I saw that mention of, what was it, 62 megahertz for healthy cells? So explain this frequency thing more. Love, fear.
Okay, so think of it as a spectrum. You've got this basic love-fear split. Fear is associated with lower frequencies, emotions like shame, guilt, apathy. Love connects to higher ones, joy, gratitude, peace, acceptance.
And our habits fit into this how?
Well, the idea is that our dominant habits, the ones we run most often, they kind of feed what plays in our field. They set our dominant emotional frequency.
So if I'm habitually, say, anxious, I'm putting out that frequency.
You're putting out that frequency, and you tend to attract or notice experiences that resonate with anxiety. It creates a cycle. Your habits fuel the frequency. The frequency influences your experience.
And this isn't just mental, is it? There's the cell health link. Higher frequencies mean more energy, lower frequencies maybe linked to illness or disease.
That's the connection McLean makes, yes. Cells vibrating higher are described as full of energy vitality. Lower frequencies, well, they correspond to states where the body might be struggling. It connects habits, emotions, and physical well-being at a very fundamental level.
It's important to mention, though, this frequency and play chart we're looking at, it's a mix, right? Hawkins' law of attraction ideas, McLean.
Exactly. It's a synthesized model, pulling from different perspectives to create a kind of map of this energetic landscape. It's a tool for understanding.
Okay, tool noted. Now, let's shift a bit. How do these playing habits connect to responsibility? The material talks about victim consciousness versus something more empowered.
Right. So victim consciousness in this model often gets stuck in a loop. Problem, root cause, solution. Find the problem, dig for why it happened, try to fix it.
Which sounds logical. What's the issue?
The potential issue, from this perspective, is that by habitually focusing on the problem, on the why, you might actually be keeping that problem's frequency alive in your reality. Your attention, your energy, keeps feeding it.
Ah, okay. So you inadvertently perpetuate it by focusing on it.
Sort of, yeah. Your habitual contribution keeps it in play.
So the alternative, playing responsible, what does that mean here?
It means becoming aware of the frequency in your delivery. How are you showing up? What's the energy behind your words, your actions? It's about consciously choosing what you contribute to the field of consciousness, as McLean puts it.
So if my habit is to complain or blame, that's the frequency I'm contributing.
That's the energy you're putting out, yes. And the idea is that's often what the field reflects back to you in terms of experiences.
So playing victim as a habit could literally create more situations where you feel like a victim, a self-fulfilling loop.
Precisely. That's the dynamic it describes. And the way out, the shift, it always comes back to awareness in the present moment.
Catching yourself in that victim pattern.
Catching yourself, recognizing the frequency, and then consciously choosing a different response, a different way to play.
Okay, which brings us right to empowered consciousness and choice. It sounds like owning our habits, owning our part in reality creation is central.
It really is. And those reactions, those triggers we all have, they're not just annoying, they're actually signposts
Signposts to what?
to where we aren't at peace. They show us the underlying habits, the frequencies that are getting activated. And the power lies in seeing that trigger moment as a choice point.
A choice to react differently, to choose a different habit response.
Exactly. Instead of the automatic, programmed reaction, you pause, you notice, and you choose something else.
And this ties into dropping negative storytelling. How does letting go of the stories we tell ourselves help?
Well, think about it. When you keep replaying a negative story about yourself, about someone else, about a situation, you're basically marinating in the emotions, the frequencies of that story.
You keep activating that low vibe.
Right. So consciously dropping the story, refusing to keep re-energizing it, allows things to flow differently. You start resisting what is based on a past narrative.
And just being present, aware, that alone can start to change things, like actually rewire pathways in the brain.
That's the implication. Simple presence, awareness, making a different choice in the now it interrupts the old pattern and starts carving out a new one. It can create genuinely new experiences.
Wow. Okay, let's go even deeper. The cellular level. You mentioned this before, trillions of cells, each with memory and emotion.
Yeah, it's a powerful concept McLean uses. Each cell vibrating, holding kind of resonance. And he uses this great analogy. You are the president of this whole colony of cells.
I like that. President of trillions. So, my choices. They're like directives to the colony.
In a way, yes. By consistently making different choices, cultivating new habits, new emotional states, you're sending new signals to the system. You're potentially shifting the subconscious programming held within that cellular network.
Moving towards a new state of being, cell by cell almost.
That's the idea. And it loops back perfectly to frequency. Your overall dominant habit frequency influences everything, right down to the cellular level, influencing matter.
So our contribution to the whole field through our emotional frequency gets reflected back.
Exactly. And remember that science bit about 1% of our cells get replaced daily. That suggests change isn't necessarily a slow, grinding process. Shifts can potentially happen quite rapidly if we change our dominant frequency.
So our habitual state of being literally creates our reality.
That's the core message. Yeah.
The material even uses an example like trying to force something good while you're feeling obsessed, a low frequency, is way harder than attracting it from a place of joy, a high frequency.
Right, because your energetic signal is just fundamentally different. And what's also really hopeful is the idea of resonance. One person vibrating at a high frequency, say peace or joy, can apparently have a positive balancing effect on many, many others operating at lower frequencies. Because we're all interconnected in this field of consciousness.
That's a big thought. We are the field, our contribution affects the playground, reality. McLean puts it bluntly.
She does. And the key to knowing your contribution, pay attention to your reactions. They're the clearest indicator of your dominant habitual frequency.
So the questions become, do I want to change how I'm playing? And if I'm stuck in, say, playing victim, what's that habit actually doing for me? What need might it be serving, maybe unconsciously?
Those are the really potent questions for self-reflection, yeah.
Which leads to the final, pretty mind-bending idea. We are the habit.
That our fundamental being is, in essence, this collection of habits.
Yeah.
Ways of thinking, feeling, responding, all layered together.
And if that's true, then maybe rigid ideas of right and wrong aren't the most useful lens. It's more like life just reflects how we're playing.
That's the perspective offered, yes. Yeah. Less judgment, more observation of the patterns and the results. Are you consciously choosing your play, or are you running on autopilot?
It's definitely easier sometimes to blame the game or the other players, isn't it, than to look at our own habitual moves.
Oh, absolutely. Much easier. But the power, the potential for change lies in that awareness, that presence. It gives you the chance to, as McLean says, flip the script on the auto response.
So wrapping this up,
Yeah.
our habits create this dominant formula, shaping our experience day in, day out.
Yeah. And being aware of today's habits, the ones running right now, gives you a direct insight into your contribution and maybe a glimpse into your future experiences if things stay the same.
So the big takeaway from this deep dive into playing habits seems to be that awareness really is the key. It gives you this powerful lens to understand and actually influence your reality.
It really boils down to that. Observing your reactions, getting a feel for your dominant frequencies, making conscious choices right here, right now. That's how you start to shift the patterns.
And potentially experience life very, very differently.
Absolutely. So maybe a final thought for everyone listening. Think about one habit, maybe one reaction pattern that you noticed during our chat today, just one.
Yeah.
What tiny shift in how you play that habit could you maybe experiment with today? Just see what happens. You know, it's in those small conscious choices that the big shifts often begin.